So here's a simple demonstration of security components, specifically firewalls. So for stateless firewalls, they do not track the traffic flow, but they require rules for both outbound and inbound traffic. Take for instance my guy Hubert here wants to send outbound traffic to the web server. So the firewall would have to check rule number 1 to see if the source IP address was from Hubert, the destination IP address was the web server over TCP port 80. And if all of the information matches, then the firewall would allow it to pass through. So if the web server wants to respond to Hubert, the firewall would have to check rule 2 to see if the source IP address is from the web server, the destination IP address is Hubert over TCP any port. And if the information matches, then the firewall would allow it to pass through. So as long as there's rules in place, the stateless firewall would allow the traffic to pass through the firewall. And that's how stateless firewalls work. Now for stateful firewalls, they are smarter and more secure than stateless firewalls. As in, they track the traffic flows and make sure that it's active, and only if it's active will it allow it to pass through the firewall. So if Hubert wants to send outbound traffic to the web server, you can see that the firewall has a single rule for that outbound traffic in the access control list. So when Hubert's outbound traffic passes the firewall takes note of it through a session table, which stores information of the IP addresses and the ports for both the source and the destination, Hubert and the web server. So when the web server responds to that traffic within the same traffic flow, the firewall checks the session table to make sure that it's active, and then grants access and allows it to pass it through. But suppose the web server was sending information to Hubert that was not part of the active traffic flow. Then the stateful firewall would recognize immediately that it's not part of the session table, and it would drop it immediately. And that's how stateful firewalls work.